The chandeliers glittered above the empty gala hall like stars in a midnight sky, their golden light falling on polished marble floors that should have been adorned with roses, champagne towers, and a string quartet. But there was nothing. Just silence where music should have played. Just emptiness where Miami's elite should have mingled. I wasn't there to witness it firsthand, but I've replayed the scene in my mind 1,000 times since that night. 25 of Miami's most influential executives standing frozen at the entrance, designer shoes clicking nervously against marble, clutching their engraved invitations like lifelines, their confused murmurs growing louder. Where's the dinner? The decor? The program? And at the center of it all, Marcus Caldwell, my business partner of 5 years, fumbling with excuses, his trademark confidence dissolving into panic as his carefully constructed image crumbled in real time. He had promised them a night of unparalleled luxury. He had promised them connections that could change their fortunes. He had promised them me. Except I wasn't there. I had vanished. And as his empire collapsed in front of every person whose approval he'd ever craved, I was sitting across town, sliding a thick contract across a mahogany table toward Olivia Wallace, the most powerful woman in luxury event planning. I watched her lift her Mont Blanc pen, her crimson nails catching the light as she signed her name with a flourish. "Vanessa," she said, looking up with those steel-gray eyes that had intimidated me for years. "From this moment forward, you're future doesn't need Marcus Caldwell anymore." That was the night every lie Marcus had ever told was finally exposed. And the night I stopped being invisible. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand why that empty ballroom meant everything, you need to know how I became a shadow in my own company. It started 5 years ago. I was 25, fresh out of my MBA, with an idea that consumed me, a boutique event planning agency that would cater exclusively to Miami's ultra-wealthy. Not just parties, immersive experiences that would leave the jaded elite breathless. I had the vision, the creativity, and the strategic mind, but I lacked the connections and the confidence to approach billionaires alone. Then I met Marcus at a hospitality conference, tall, impeccably dressed, with a smile that made people feel like they were the only ones in the room. He was 32, already established in Miami's social scene, and when I shared my business concept over coffee, his eyes lit up. "This could work," he said, leaning forward. "I know everyone worth knowing in this city. You have the ideas, I have the network. We could be unstoppable." 3 weeks later, Brooks & Caldwell was born. Withdrew my entire savings, $87,000 that I'd accumulated through years of careful living and investing, while Marcus contributed connections and charm. Our agreement was simple: equal partnership, equal credit, equal profits. The first year was exhilarating. We secured small but prestigious events: a tech CEO's anniversary party, a renowned surgeon's retirement celebration, the launch of a luxury jewelry line. I worked 18-hour days, designing experiences that turned heads and opened doors. Marcus worked the room, charming clients, ensuring our names circulated in the right circles. I didn't notice the shift at first. It happened gradually, like erosion wearing away at stone. During client meetings, Marcus began interrupting me. "What Vanessa means is," he'd say, before completely changing my concept into something less innovative but more familiar to the clients. Then came the introductions. "This is Vanessa. She handles the details. Not my partner or our creative director. Just the person who handles details." At industry events, I'd overhear him. "The concept? Yes. I came up with that after visiting Monaco last summer." Ideas I'd presented to him the week before. Suddenly his brainchildren. I told myself it didn't matter. We were building something significant, and ego had no place in success. I stayed late while he networked at rooftop bars. I managed our growing staff while he lunched with potential clients. I created the magic while he sold it. Then came the Saunders wedding, our first 7-figure event. I designed an underwater-themed experience that transformed a ballroom into an oceanic dreamscape, complete with acrobats suspended from ceiling as mermaids and projection-mapped sea creatures that swam across the walls. The bride wept when she saw it. The guests couldn't stop talking about it. 3 magazines featured it. The Monday after, Marcus called a staff meeting. My vision for the Saunders wedding exceeded even my expectations, he announced to our 15 employees. I sat there, stunned, as he detailed his creative process, never once acknowledging my sleepless weeks of planning. That night, I confronted him in his office. "We had an agreement, Marcus. Equal credit." He looked up from his phone, a flicker of annoyance crossing his perfect features. "Vanessa, be realistic. Who do these clients relate to? Who makes them comfortable spending millions? It's business. I'm the face, you're the brain. That's how partnerships work." "That's not a partnership," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "That's exploitation." He laughed then, a sound that felt like ice sliding down my spine. "Exploitation? I made you relevant. Before me, you were just another MBA with a Pinterest board of party ideas. Now you're part of a company that's changing luxury events in Miami. You should be thanking me." I left his office that night with a revelation that burned like acid. I had become invisible in my own dream. The company bearing my name had no space for my voice. But I didn't leave. Not yet. Instead, I started keeping records. Every concept, every design, every innovation, documented, dated, witnessed by staff members I trusted. Every client interaction, every instance where Marcus took credit, noted, filed, built into a case. I confided in only two people: Maria Torres, our loyal team lead who had been with us since the beginning, and James Miller, our operations manager, whose integrity was unquestionable. They saw everything, knew everything, and quietly supported me as I built my escape plan. 3 more years passed this way. The company grew, our reputation soared, and I became increasingly ghost-like, present yet unseen, heard yet unacknowledged, until the day the invitation arrived. Heavy cream cardstock embossed with silver. An exclusive dinner hosted by Olivia Wallace, the queen of luxury hospitality, for 20 selected innovators in the industry. The invitation was addressed solely to me. Marcus intercepted it. "I'll handle this," he said, slipping the envelope into his jacket pocket. "Wallace's team clearly made a mistake. I'll have them correct it." That night, as I left the office, Maria handed me a sealed envelope. "This came for you personally." I made a copy before Marcus saw it. Inside was my salvation, and the beginning of the end for Marcus Caldwell. Miami in August burns like a fever. The heat rises from the pavement in visible waves. Palm trees stand still in the windless afternoons, and the wealthy retreat to air-conditioned mansions or sail away on private yachts. It was during this scorching month that everything finally ignited. The Wallace-Chung merger announcement was set to be the event of the year. 25 of the most influential figures in international luxury hospitality gathering for an intimate gala where Olivia Wallace would reveal her partnership with Hong Kong magnate Edward Chung. Their combined empires would create the largest luxury hospitality conglomerate in the world. When the call came for Brooks and Caldwell to handle the announcement gala, I knew it wasn't just another event. It was the opportunity that could define careers. I spent 2 weeks creating a concept that would honor both Eastern and Western traditions of luxury while looking toward the future. A harmonious blend of cultures expressed through cuisine, decor, entertainment, and technology. When I presented my vision to Marcus in our conference room, I watched his eyes widen. "This is impressive," he admitted, flipping through my presentation. "The floating lantern release synchronized with the digital signing of the merger documents is inspired." For a moment, I glimpsed the partner I thought I'd had 5 years ago, someone who recognized quality, who appreciated innovation. Then his phone buzzed, and when he looked up again, something had changed in his expression. "Unfortunately, we need to scale this back," he said. "Only 25 guests are attending." 25 of the most influential people in our industry, I corrected him. "This isn't about quantity, it's about impact." He waved his hand dismissively. "Regardless, your concept is too elaborate. We need something simpler, more predictable. These people don't want surprises." "Predictable is precisely what they don't want," I argued. Olivia Wallace specifically requested innovation. "I know what Olivia wants," he interrupted sharply. "I've been speaking with her team directly." That was the first lie. I knew it because Olivia's personal assistant had been calling me, not him, for the past week. But I let it slide. Marcus stood straightening his designer tie. "Look, Vanessa, just do what you do best. Handle the details. I'll manage the client relationship and, overall vision." I felt something shift inside me, a tectonic plate moving after years of pressure. "This isn't what we agreed to, Marcus. My name is on this company too. This is my concept, my vision." He sighed dramatically, as if dealing with a difficult child. Then, looking around the conference room where our team was gathered, He smiled coldly. Only 25 elite guests are coming. Vanessa, you'll arrange everything. That's your role. He emphasized the last word, making sure everyone heard it. Your role, not mine. Know your place. The room fell silent. Maria looked down at her notebook. James stared straight ahead, his jaw tight. And something inside me, something that had been bending for 5 years, finally broke. I stood slowly, gathering my presentation materials. You're right, I said quietly. I should know my place. Relief flashed across his face, quickly replaced by his usual smug expression. Excellent. I'll need the revised, simplified concept by tomorrow morning. And make sure— No, I interrupted. The word felt foreign in my mouth. I'd said it so rarely to him. He blinked. Excuse me? I said no. I won't be revising the concept. In fact, I continued, my voice growing steadier with each word. I won't be working on this event at all. Laughter burst from him, sharp, incredulous. Don't be ridiculous. This is the Wallace-Chung merger. Of course you're working on it. I'm taking a leave of absence, I said, the decision crystallizing as I spoke it. Effective immediately. The smugness vanished from his face. You can't be serious. The gala is in 2 weeks. I'm completely serious, I replied. As you said, I should know my place. And it's not here. Not anymore. I walked out of that conference room with 5 years of silent rage simmering beneath my skin. Behind me, I heard Marcus's voice rising, then the conference room door slamming. I went straight to my office, closed the door, and called the number I'd been avoiding. For weeks. Ms. Wallace's office, answered a crisp voice. This is Vanessa Brooks. I'd like to accept Ms. Wallace's dinner invitation, and I have a proposal I think she'll find interesting. After hanging up, I opened my desk drawer and removed a sealed envelope, the invitation I'd received 3 weeks earlier. The one Marcus had intercepted, but that Maria had saved for me. Inside was not just a dinner invitation, but a personal note from Olivia Wallace herself. Ms. Brooks, your work has not gone unnoticed, despite efforts to obscure it. I'm interested in discussing potential opportunities for collaboration, without your current business arrangement. Discretion is advised. Olivia Wallace. I had ignored it initially out of loyalty to what we'd built. Now, with my hands still shaking from our confrontation, I finally understood what she was offering. Freedom. Before I could reconsider, Maria knocked and entered my office, her expression a mixture of concern and relief. Are you okay? She asked, closing the door behind her. I'm leaving, Maria, I said. Not just for a break. I'm done. She nodded, unsurprised. It's been a long time coming. What can I do? I need everything we've documented. Every email, every design, every client testimonial that mentions my work specifically. And I need the staff records showing who actually executed each major event. James joined us minutes later, locking the door behind him. Marcus is on the phone with Olivia's team trying to smooth things over, he reported. He's telling them you're having a creative breakdown, but that he'll, handle everything. I almost laughed. Let him try. For the next 3 hours, the three of us compiled everything I needed. 5 years of evidence showing who had really built Brooks & Caldwell into Miami's premier luxury event planning company. When we finished, I had 2 large portfolio cases filled with irrefutable proof of my contributions. What will you do? James asked as we prepared to leave. I looked at my watch. It was 7 p.m. I have a dinner with Olivia Wallace at 9. After that, we'll see. Maria hugged me tightly. Whatever happens, we're with you. I nodded, emotion finally breaking through my anger. Thank you, both of you, for seeing me when he made me invisible. As I walked out of the office that evening, portfolio cases in hand, I passed Marcus's office. He was still on the phone, gesturing wildly, his back to the door. He didn't see me leave. It was the last time I would set foot in Brooks & Caldwell as his partner, but not the last time my path would cross with Marcus Caldwell. The Wallace-Chung merger gala was exactly 2 weeks away, and in those 14 days, everything would change. The Satai Hotel rises like a sleek monolith from Miami beaches. Shoreline, its understated facade masking the opulence within. As I handed my card to the valet, I felt both terrified and exhilarated. For 5 years, I'd lived in Marcus's shadow. Tonight, I would step into my own light. The maitre d' led me through the lobby's dim corridors into a private dining room overlooking the ocean. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed Miami's glittering coastline, the night. Sky merging seamlessly with the dark water. In the center stood a single table, and at it, Olivia Wallace. At 62, Olivia was a legend in our industry. She'd built her hospitality empire from nothing, transforming a single boutique hotel in New York into an international luxury brand spanning 5 continents. Her silver hair was cut in a severe bob that framed sharp cheekbones and eyes that missed nothing. "Vanessa Brooks," she said, not rising. "You're finally ready to talk." I set my portfolio cases beside the table and extended my hand. I should have called sooner. Her handshake was firm, her skin cool despite Miami's heat. "Better late than never. Please sit." A server appeared silently, pouring champagne into crystal flutes. I took mine gratefully, needing something to steady my nerves. "I've been watching your work for 3 years," Olivia said without preamble. "The underwater Saunders wedding, the zero-gravity product launch for quantum technologies, the holographic fashion show for Louis Vuitton." She took a sip of champagne. All exceptional concepts. All credited to Marcus Caldwell in the press. I gripped my flute tighter. "You knew?" "Of course I knew. Did you think someone like me wouldn't recognize the difference between your work and his?" She laughed softly. "Marcus is a salesman. Good at his job, certainly, but utterly incapable of the artistic innovation your events demonstrate. Then why invite me here? Why now?" She set down her glass. "Because the Wallace-Chung merger requires excellence I don't trust Marcus to deliver. And because I'm tired of watching talent go uncredited." Her expression softened slightly. "Also, I detest men who build careers by standing on women's shoulders." The server returned with our appetizers, delicate arrangements of scallop crudo that looked too beautiful to disturb. "What exactly are you proposing?" I asked. "A partnership. Not with Brooks and Caldwell, but with you personally. The merger announcement is just the beginning. Edward and I plan to rebrand 37 properties worldwide in the next 18 months. We need someone with your vision to oversee the launch events." My mind raced with possibilities. "And Marcus? What about him?" "Your partnership agreement includes a clause allowing either party to pursue independent projects, does it not?" I stared at her. "You've seen our partnership agreement?" She smiled thinly. "I make it my business to know exactly who I'm dealing with, including the exit clauses neither of you has ever invoked." I opened one of my portfolio cases and extracted the agreement, flipping to page 17. There it was, a clause I'd forgotten, inserted by our lawyer as a standard protection. Either partner may pursue independent business opportunities, provided they do not directly compete with active Brooks and Caldwell contracts. "The Wallace-Chung merger gala is already contracted to Brooks and Caldwell," I said slowly. "Yes. And Marcus seems quite confident he can handle it without you." Olivia's eyes gleamed. "I'm curious to see if that's true." Understanding dawned on me. "You want him to fail. I want him to demonstrate his actual value, without you there to save him. And I want you to show me what you can do independently." She leaned forward. "The night of the gala, while Marcus flounders, you and I will be finalizing terms of our partnership. By morning, everyone will know exactly who the real talent behind Brooks and Caldwell has always been." I should have felt guilty. I should have worried about the company I'd helped build, about our staff, our reputation. Instead, I felt nothing but clarity. "What do you need from me tonight?" I asked. Olivia tapped the portfolio cases. "Everything. Your concepts, your execution plans, your evidence. By dessert, I'll know if you're really as exceptional as I believe or if I've misjudged you entirely." For the next 2 hours, I laid out my career before her, every design I'd created, every problem I'd solved, every innovation I'd pioneered while Marcus took the credit. I showed her testimonials from vendors who'd worked directly with me, emails from clients praising elements Marcus hadn't even known about, staff records showing who had actually managed each event. Olivia examined everything meticulously, asking pointed questions that revealed her deep understanding of our industry. By the time dessert arrived, a deconstructed key lime pie that captured Miami's essence, she had fallen silent, simply absorbing the evidence before her. Finally, she closed the last portfolio. "Well, Vanessa, it seems I've underestimated you." My heart sank. "You're not interested?" "Quite the contrary. I'm offering you more than a partnership." She removed a folder from her designer bag and slid it across the table. "I'm offering you a future." Inside was a contract outlining a position as creative director for Wallace-Chung Global Events, with a salary 3 times what I made at Brooks and Caldwell, plus profit sharing, creative control, and, most precious of all, full credit for my work. "Why me?" I asked, hardly believing what I was reading. "You could hire anyone. Because you understand that luxury isn't about expense. It's about emotion." She gestured toward my portfolios. Your events don't just impress. They move people. That's rare. And what about the gala? Brooks and Caldwell is still contracted. Officially, yes. But Marcus will receive a revised brief tomorrow morning. One that he, without you, will find impossible to execute. Her smile was almost predatory. Consider it his final exam. And if he passes? He won't. She signaled for the check. The question is, are you prepared for what happens when he fails? When your absence exposes him completely? There will be fallout, Vanessa. Powerful people embarrassed. Your name will be mentioned. I thought of 5 years of invisibility, of ideas stolen, of knowing my place. I'm prepared, I said. Olivia nodded approvingly. Then I'll see you on the night of the gala. Bring the signed contract and we'll announce our partnership after Marcus has his learning experience. As we left the restaurant, Olivia paused. One more thing. Don't contact Marcus or anyone at Brooks and Caldwell between now and then. Let him believe you're having that creative breakdown he's describing to anyone. We'll listen. The more confident he feels, the harder the fall. I watched her slide into a waiting Bentley, then stood alone on the sidewalk, Miami's humid night air wrapping around me like a blanket. For the first time in years, I could breathe freely. I spent the next 2 weeks in my apartment, alternating between exhilaration and doubt. Had I made the right choice? Was I burning bridges I could never rebuild? I ignored Marcus's increasingly frantic voice messages and emails, each one cycling from anger to pleading and back again. On the morning of the gala, I received a text from Maria. He's panicking. No vendors will work with him directly. Everything's falling apart. Are you sure about this? I replied with 2 words. I'm sure. That evening, as Miami's elite gathered outside, an empty ballroom, I put on my most elegant black dress, picked up my signed contract, and headed to meet Olivia Wallace for the 2nd time, and Marcus Caldwell for the last. The private dining room at Nobu Miami hummed with quiet conversation. Olivia sat at the head of a small table, joined by Edward Chung, a distinguished man in his 70s whose calm demeanor belied his reputation as Hong Kong's most ruthless business magnate, and 2 of their senior executives. Ah, Vanessa, Olivia said as I approached. Right on time. You've met Edward? I shook his hand, noting his appraising gaze. Only by reputation. It's an honor, Mr. Chung. The honor is mine, he replied in lightly accented English. Olivia speaks very highly of your work. I'm particularly impressed by the concept you developed for our merger announcement. I glanced at Olivia in surprise. She smiled slightly. I shared your original proposal with Edward, the one Marcus rejected for being too elaborate. We both agree it would have been exceptional. And yet, Edward added, checking his watch, at this very moment, 25 of our closest industry colleagues are discovering that Brooks and Caldwell has prepared nothing at all. My stomach tightened. Despite everything, part of me had hoped Marcus would somehow pull it together. Not for his sake, but for our staff, our company's reputation. Nothing at all? I asked. Olivia's assistant approached, whispering in her ear. She nodded, then turned to me. Apparently, Marcus assured everyone that you would return at the last minute. When you didn't, he had no contingency plan. The venue is empty. No decor, no catering, no entertainment. Just an open bar that was pre-stocked yesterday. I closed my eyes briefly, imagining the scene. The staff must be mortified. Your loyal team members called in sick this morning, Olivia said. Only Marcus and 2 new interns showed up. They're currently trying to explain to the CEO of Peninsula Hotels why there are no place settings for dinner. Part of me felt vindicated, but another part mourned the company I'd helped build. What happens to Brooks and Caldwell after tonight? Edward answered, his expression grave. The company's reputation will suffer significantly. However, we've already reached out to Ms. Torres and Mr. Miller about positions within our organization. Talent shouldn't be punished. For poor leadership, relief flooded through me. Thank you. Now, Olivia said, sliding a pen across the table. Shall we make this official before dessert? I removed the contract from my purse and signed my name with steady hands. As I did, my phone began vibrating incessantly. Marcus, no doubt, finally realizing I wasn't coming to save him. Olivia raised her glass. To new beginnings. We clinked glasses just as the restaurant's maitre d' approached our table, looking uncomfortable. Ms. Wallace, I apologize for the interruption, but there's a gentleman at the entrance insisting on speaking with Ms. Brooks. He's becoming disruptive. I didn't need to ask who it was. I'll handle this. Are you sure? Olivia asked, concern in her voice. Absolutely. I stood, smoothing my dress. It's time I stopped hiding. I followed the maitre d' through the restaurant to the entrance where Marcus stood, his perfect appearance now disheveled. His tie hung loose, his usually immaculate hair was wild, and his eyes burned with a mixture of fury and panic. "Vanessa!" he shouted when he saw me, causing nearby diners to turn. "What the hell are you doing? Do you have any idea what's happening?" I gestured toward the door. "Let's talk outside." Once on the sidewalk, he exploded. 25, 25 of the most powerful people in our industry are standing in an empty ballroom right now. Wallace and Chung aren't even there. Their teams are calling it a catastrophic failure. We're ruined. No, Marcus. You're ruined, I corrected calmly. I resigned 2 weeks ago. Remember, his face contorted. This was your plan all along, wasn't it? To humiliate me? To destroy everything we built? Everything I built, I said, while you took the credit. That's bullshit and you know it. I made the connections, I brought in the clients, and I delivered the experiences they actually paid for. I stepped closer. Tell me something, Marcus. Did you even read the revised brief Olivia sent for tonight's event? Confusion flickered across his face. Of course I did. It was impossible. Floating light displays, synchronized drones, live translation in 7 languages. No one could deliver that in 2 weeks. I could have. In fact, I designed something very similar in my original proposal, the one you dismissed. Understanding dawned in his eyes. She set me up. No. You set yourself up by making me invisible for 5 years, by believing your own lies about who really created our success. I took a deep breath, by telling me to know my place. His expression shifted from anger to calculation, a familiar transformation I'd seen countless times when he was preparing to manipulate someone. Vanessa, listen, he said, his voice softening. We can fix this. Together. Whatever Wallace offered you, I'll match it. Equal credit from now on. I swear. We've built something special. Don't throw it away over one misunderstanding. For a moment, I almost pitied him. He truly believed he could still talk his way out of this. It's too late, I said. I've signed with Wallace Chung as their global creative director. The announcement goes out tomorrow morning. The color drained from his face. You can't. That's a breach of our partnership agreement. Check page 17, paragraph 3, I replied. Independent business opportunities. Perfectly legal. The clients will never follow you, he said desperately. They trust the Brooks & Caldwell brand, not just you. I smiled. We'll see. My phone chimed with a text. It was from Maria. It's a complete disaster. Guests leaving, reporters taking photos, several clients already calling to cancel upcoming events. I showed him the screen. Your empire is falling, Marcus, and there's no one left to hold it up for you. He grabbed my wrist suddenly, his fingers digging into my skin. You vindictive bitch. You think you can just walk away and leave me with nothing? After everything I did for you? I looked pointedly at his hand until he released me. What exactly did you do for me, Marcus? Besides take credit for my work? Besides make me feel small? Besides profit from my talent while ensuring I remained in your shadow? I made you, he spat. No, I said quietly. I made you. And now I'm unmaking you. He stepped back as though I'd slapped him. For the first time in our 5-year partnership, he looked at me with something new in his eyes. Fear. This isn't over, he said. But the threat sounded hollow. It is for me. I turned to go back inside, then paused. By the way, I've been documenting everything for years, every stolen idea, every false credit, every manipulative tactic. If you try to damage my reputation or interfere with my new position, I won't hesitate to, release it all. Every single detail. I left him standing on the sidewalk, a solitary figure against Miami's glittering skyline. When I returned to the table, Olivia raised an eyebrow questioningly. It's done, I said simply. She nodded. To new beginnings, then. As we continued our dinner, my phone flooded with messages from industry contacts who had been at the gala. The story was spreading. Faster than wildfire. Marcus Caldwell's spectacular failure, the empty ballroom, the furious clients. By morning, everyone in Miami's luxury event world would know that the emperor had no clothes, and I, his invisible partner, would finally be seen. Miami's social elite have always thrived on scandal, consuming it like the expensive champagne they serve at their galas. By sunrise, news of the Wallace Chung disaster had spread through every luxury hotel, private club, and beachfront mansion in the city. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since I'd woken up. I sat on my balcony overlooking Biscayne Bay, watching the morning light transform the water into a sheet of hammered gold. A sense of stillness had settled over me. Not victory, not vindication, but something quieter. Peace. Maria's call came just after 9. It's absolute chaos, she said without preamble. Marcus hasn't shown up at the office. 3 clients have already terminated their contracts. The Ritz-Carlton called to ask specifically if you would be available for their New Year's Eve event, and they don't care if it's through Brooks and Caldwell or not. I sipped my coffee. And the staff? Confused, mostly. James. Told everyone you'd resigned, but no one knows why yet. The rumor mill is working overtime. She paused. When is the Wallace Chung announcement going public? Noon today. They're sending out a press release about the merger and the new creative team simultaneously. And Brooks and Caldwell? I set down my cup. I don't know, Maria. Legally, I'm still a partner, but I can't see a way forward for the company after last night. The damage is too extensive. Marcus is calling an emergency meeting for 3 o'clock. He wants everyone there, including you. I laughed softly. I'm sure he does. Will you come? There was tension in her voice. No, I said gently. That chapter is closed, but I'll be at Soho House at 4 if you and James want to hear about your potential future with Wallace Chung. She was quiet for a moment. You know we're with you, right? Whatever happens. The lump in my throat caught me by surprise. I know. Thank you. After we hung up, I checked my email. Dozens of messages from industry contacts, event spaces, and former clients, all wanting to confirm what they'd heard, all wanting to know my side of the story, and one from Olivia Wallace titled, Simply Next Steps. I opened it to find the formal announcement of my appointment, along with a personal note. Vanessa, the press release goes out at noon. By 12:01, your phone will be ringing continuously. I suggest turning it off and enjoying a day of well-deserved peace. Tomorrow, we begin rebuilding your public profile as the visionary you've always been. Your office at Wallace Chung will be ready next Monday. Until then, rest. The war is won. Olivia. I smiled at her military metaphor. For Olivia, business had always been a battlefield. For me, it had been something else. A canvas, a stage, a place to create experiences that transformed ordinary moments into memories. At precisely noon, as promised, the announcement went live. I watched on my laptop as it appeared simultaneously on major hospitality news sites, social media channels, and industry forums. Wallace Chung announces global merger and appoints Vanessa Brooks as creative director. Beneath the headline was a professional photograph of me that Olivia had arranged yesterday. Poised, confident, nothing like the shadow I'd been at Brooks and Caldwell. The article detailed my visionary work on numerous high-profile events previously credited to Marcus or our company collectively. Most damning of all was a quote from Edward Chung. We've long admired Ms. Brooks' innovative approach, which has been the true creative force behind Brooks and Caldwell's most celebrated events. We're delighted to bring her unique vision directly to the Wallace Chung brand. My phone exploded with notifications. Then came the text from James. Marcus just saw the announcement. He threw his computer across the conference room. Meeting canceled. He's on his way to you. I wasn't surprised. Marcus had always been predictable in his rage. Performative, explosive, designed to intimidate. I replied quickly, I won't be home. Meet at Soho House as planned. Within minutes, my doorman called up. Ms. Brooks, there's a Mr. Caldwell in the lobby. He's quite insistent about seeing you. I'm not available, Carlos, and I won't be available if he returns. Understood, ma'am. I packed my laptop and a few essentials, then slipped out through the service elevator, avoiding a scene I had no interest in participating in. Marcus's confrontations had always been about giving him an audience, a stage for his manipulation. Today, I was denying him both. Soho House Miami occupies the top floors of a former warehouse in South Beach, its exclusive membership ensuring privacy from prying eyes. I settled into a quiet corner of the rooftop lounge, ordered a sparkling water, and watched the afternoon light play across the ocean while I waited for Maria and James. They arrived together, looking both exhausted and exhilarated. So, James said as they sat down, that was quite an exit strategy. I smiled. It wasn't planned, not initially, but sometimes the universe hands you exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. Maria leaned forward. The office is a war zone. Half the staff is looking for new jobs, clients are calling hourly to cancel contracts, and Marcus, she shook her head. I've never seen him like this. He's completely unraveled. Did he say anything about me? I asked, surprised by how little I cared about the answer. James grimaced. Nothing repeatable in polite company, but the gist was that you'd betrayed him, sabotaged the company, and would regret crossing him. Empty threats, I said with more confidence than I felt. He has nothing left to threaten me with. What about the company? Maria asked. Legally, you're still a partner. I nodded. Yes, and I have no intention of fighting for a company that can't survive without its reputation. I've instructed my lawyer to offer Marcus a buyout, $1 for my share. Their eyes widened simultaneously. $1? James repeated. Vanessa, even with the damage from last night, your half is worth millions. Not to me, I said. I want a clean break. No entanglements, no negotiations, just freedom to move forward. And us? Maria asked quietly. I smiled and handed them each a business card. Heavy stock, embossed with the Wallace Chung logo and my name as Global Creative Director. Olivia and Edward were impressed with your loyalty and integrity. There are positions waiting for both of you, if you want them. More money, more responsibility, and absolutely no Marcus Caldwell. Their faces lit up, 5 years of shared frustration dissolving into hope. We spent the next hour discussing the future. The Wallace Chung properties worldwide that would need rebranding events, the creative freedom I'd been promised, the team we would build together. As we talked, I felt myself expanding into the space I'd been denied for. So long, breathing fully for the first time in years. As the sun began to set, casting Miami in a golden glow, James raised his glass. To Vanessa Brooks, finally visible. Maria joined the toast. And to new beginnings. I clinked my glass against theirs, watching the light refract through the crystal. To knowing your worth, even when others try to diminish it. Later that evening, as I checked into a suite at the Four Seasons to avoid another confrontation at my apartment building, my lawyer called. Marcus accepted the buyout, she said, surprise evident in her voice. $1 for your half of Brooks and Caldwell. He signed the papers an hour ago. He had no choice, I replied. The company is a sinking ship. There's something else, she added. He's changing the name to Caldwell. Events. Effective immediately. I laughed softly. Of course he is. His ego wouldn't allow anything else. Are you sure about this, Vanessa? You're walking away from the company you built. No, I corrected her. I'm walking toward the recognition I've earned. The company was just a structure, a vessel. What made it valuable was me. My vision, my execution, my innovation. And I'm taking all of that with me. After we hung up, I stood at the window of my hotel suite, looking out at the Miami skyline glittering against the night sky. Somewhere in that constellation of lights was Marcus, likely drinking alone, nursing his wounded pride and plotting revenge that would never materialize. And here I was, finally stepping into the light I'd created. The Wallace Chung Miami offices occupied the top 3 floors of a gleaming tower in Brickell, with views stretching from the financial district to the ocean beyond. On my first Monday as Global Creative Director, I stepped off the elevator into a reception area designed with understated luxury. Cream marble, brushed gold accents, and a massive living wall of tropical plants. Ms. Brooks, the receptionist greeted me. Ms. Wallace is waiting for you in the conference room. May I show you the way? I followed her through a series of elegant hallways until we reached a glass-walled space where Olivia sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by executives I recognized from industry events, but had never been permitted to approach as Marcus's assistant. Vanessa, Olivia rose, extending her hand. Right on time. Everyone, this is Vanessa Brooks, our new Global Creative Director. As most of you now know, Vanessa was the creative force behind Miami's most talked-about luxury events of the past 5 years, though that fact was obscured until recently. The executives nodded, several offering knowing smiles. The Wallace Chung announcement had sent shockwaves through the industry, with many insiders suddenly remembering that they'd always suspected I was the real talent behind Brooks and Caldwell. Thank you for this opportunity, I said, taking the seat Olivia indicated at her right hand. I'm excited to bring my vision to the Wallace Chung rebrand. Before we begin, Olivia said, I think we should address the elephant in the room. The failed gala last week has created significant buzz, not all of it positive. Some are questioning our decision to host such an unconventional announcement. I tensed, wondering if I was about to be blamed for the disaster. Edward Chung spoke up from the other end of the table. What Olivia means is that our strategy worked perfectly. Sometimes a controlled failure is the most effective way to launch a new narrative. I stared at him. Controlled failure? Olivia smiled thinly. Did you really think we'd leave our merger announcement to chance, Vanessa? The empty gala was planned from the beginning, a dramatic demonstration of what happens when your talent is removed from the equation. Understanding dawned on me. You never intended to announce the merger that night. Of course not, Edward said. The real announcement was always going to be the press release, paired with your appointment. The gala was merely theater? Very effective theater, added a woman I recognized as their chief marketing officer. The images of those confused executives standing in an empty ballroom generated more industry buzz than any conventional event could have. And your ex-partner's very public meltdown was the perfect backdrop for your triumphant emergence. I should have felt manipulated, used as a pawn in their corporate chess game. Instead, I felt a grudging admiration for their strategic brilliance. They hadn't just offered me a job. They'd orchestrated my entire redemption arc. So, the 25 guests, I began, were all carefully selected individuals who either already knew the truth about your contributions or needed to learn it dramatically, Olivia confirmed. We made sure no genuinely innocent clients were embarrassed. Relief washed through me. And my staff, Maria and James, were informed of certain aspects of the plan, Edward said. Not everything, but enough to ensure they wouldn't suffer professionally. We protect our investments, Ms. Brooks. You and your loyal team members are now significant investments. The meeting proceeded, transitioning into a detailed discussion of the rebranding timeline for their properties worldwide. As I shared my initial concepts for the launch events, I noticed something I'd rarely experienced in my professional life: complete, focused attention. No interruptions, no one speaking over me or claiming my ideas as their own. Just respect for my expertise. After the meeting, Olivia walked me to my new office, a corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows and sleek minimalist furnishings. Is it what you expected? She asked as I took in the view. It's perfect, I said. Though I'm still processing the fact that you and Edward planned the gala disaster. She leaned against my desk. Marcus Caldwell was always going to fail without you, Vanessa. We simply accelerated the timeline and maximized the visibility of that failure. Her expression softened slightly. We didn't create the injustice. We merely exposed it in the most advantageous way possible. For the company or for me? Both, fortunately. She straightened. Your first major project will be the New York property relaunch next month. You'll have complete creative control and a team of, your choosing. I suggest bringing Torres and Miller on board immediately. Loyalty like theirs is rare in this industry. After she left, I stood at my window, watching Miami's financial district pulse with midday activity. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. First day going well? James and I just got our official offers. When do we start? I smiled, typing back. The sooner the better. My first project is already bigger than anything we did at B&C. As I set my phone down, my assistant, I had an assistant now, appeared at my door. Ms. Brooks, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she insists it's important. Who is it? A Ms. Chen from the Orchid Collection. She says she's reconsidering her event contract. The Orchid Collection was one of Brooks and Caldwell's most prestigious clients, a luxury jewelry brand that had consistently chosen us for their seasonal launches. I'd designed their events personally for 3 years, though Marcus had always been their official contact. Send her in, please. Eleanor Chen entered my office with the confident grace of someone accustomed to commanding attention. In her 60s, impeccably dressed, she ran the American division of her family's Hong Kong-based jewelry empire. Vanessa, she said warmly, or should I say, the woman who actually created the floating pearl dome for our spring collection launch? I gestured for her to sit. You knew? Of course I knew. I've been designing jewelry for 4 decades. I recognize creative vision when I see it. She settled into the chair across from my desk. What I didn't know was how completely your partner had sidelined you until I received an invitation to that disastrous gala last week. I winced. You were there? Oh, yes. Quite the statement piece, that empty ballroom. Her eyes twinkled. Almost as powerful as your absence. I'm sorry if you were inconvenienced. She waved away my apology. Please. It was the most entertaining non-event I've attended in years, and very illuminating. She opened her handbag and removed a folder. Which brings me to the reason for my visit. The Orchid Collection would like to terminate our contract with Caldwell Events, effective immediately, and establish a new agreement with Wallace Chung, specifically requesting you as our event designer. She slid the folder across my desk. Inside was a contract. offering Wallace Chung exclusive rights to all Orchid Collection events in North America for the next 3 years. A deal worth millions. This is significant, I said carefully. It's just the beginning, Eleanor replied. Word travels quickly in our circles, Vanessa. As we speak, at least a dozen former clients of yours are reconsidering their arrangements with Marcus. They all want the real artist, not the man who took credit for her work. A weight I hadn't realized I was still carrying suddenly lifted from my shoulders. This was vindication beyond anything I could have orchestrated myself, the clients themselves recognizing my contribution, seeking me out directly. Thank you, Eleanor. I'd be honored to continue working with the Orchid Collection. She nodded, satisfied. Excellent. And Vanessa? The next time you create something extraordinary, make sure your name is attached to it. The world deserves to know its visionaries. After she left, I called Olivia to share the news. The Orchid Collection just signed with us, I said when she answered. 3-year exclusive contract. The first of many, she replied, unsurprised. I told you, Vanessa. Talent always finds its proper recognition eventually. Sometimes it just needs a stage cleared of those blocking the light. That evening, as I prepared to leave the office, my assistant handed me a thick stack of messages, all from former Brooks and Caldwell clients requesting meetings. Among them was a note from the manager of the venue where the failed gala had taken place. Ms. Brooks, Mr. Caldwell has been permanently removed from our preferred vendors list. We would welcome the opportunity to work with you directly in the future. I drove home with the windows down, letting Miami's warm evening air rush through the car. 5 years of invisibility were ending, not with the vindictive triumph I might once have imagined, but with something more profound, the simple power of truth finally recognized. 6 months passed, like a dream. Under the Wallace Chung banner, I designed launch events for their properties in New York, Los Angeles, London, Hong Kong, and Dubai. My work appeared in Vogue, Architectural Digest, and Forbes. My name, not Marcus's, not Brooks and Caldwell's, but mine alone, became synonymous with innovative luxury experiences. Maria headed our production team, while James managed operations with meticulous precision. We hired selectively from the now-defunct Brooks and Caldwell staff, building a team that functioned like a well-oiled machine. The shadow I'd lived in for 5 years had fully dissolved, replaced by a spotlight that no longer felt uncomfortable. I rarely thought about Marcus anymore. Occasionally, industry gossip would reach me. Caldwell events struggling to retain clients, Marcus desperately slashing prices to stay afloat, rumors of unpaid vendors and postponed launches. I felt no satisfaction in his downfall, only a quiet relief that justice had taken its natural course. Then came the invitation to the American Hospitality Awards, the industry's most prestigious recognition ceremony, held annually at the Plaza Hotel in New York. I'd been nominated for Event Designer of the Year, while Wallace Chung was up for Brand Evolution Excellence, largely due to our relaunch events. You have to attend, Olivia insisted when I hesitated. This isn't just about recognition, it's about claiming your rightful place in the industry. So there I was, stepping onto the red carpet in a midnight blue gown, camera flashes illuminating my path into the grand ballroom. Inside, tables adorned with white orchids and crystal candelabras filled the space, industry luminaries mingling over champagne and carefully curated hors d'oeuvres. I was chatting with Eleanor Chen near the bar when I saw him, Marcus, standing alone near the entrance, looking simultaneously out of place and desperate to be noticed. He'd lost weight, and his once impeccable appearance showed subtle signs of strain. A slightly rumpled tuxedo, hair a touch too long, eyes darting anxiously around the room. Your former partner seems to be having a difficult evening, Eleanor observed, following my gaze. I heard he had to call in favors just to secure an invitation. I sipped my champagne. I'm surprised he came at all. Men like him can't resist witnessing their own replacement, she said wisely. They need to see it to believe it's real. I excused myself from Eleanor and found Maria and James at our table, both elegantly dressed and radiating pride in how far we'd come. He's here, Maria murmured as I sat down. I saw, I replied, smoothing my napkin across my lap. Let's just enjoy the evening. But fate had other plans. As I returned from the ladies' room an hour later, Marcus stepped directly into my path, blocking my return to the ballroom. Up close, the changes in him were more apparent. Faint shadows beneath his eyes, a tightness around his mouth that spoke of months of stress. Vanessa, he said, his voice a mixture of bitterness and forced casualness. Quite the meteoric rise you've engineered for yourself. I kept my expression neutral. Hello, Marcus. I didn't expect to see you here. Clearly. His eyes swept over my designer gown, the diamond earrings Olivia had insisted I wear. You've certainly embraced your new role, enjoying the spotlight after hiding in the shadows for so long. I wasn't hiding, Marcus. I was working while you took the credit. His face hardened. Is that the story you're telling everyone? Poor Vanessa, the unrecognized genius suppressed by her villainous partner? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. We both know you needed me. My connections, my charisma, my ability to sell our services to people who would never have been impressed by you alone. For a moment, I felt a flicker of my old uncertainty, the insecurity he'd so carefully cultivated in me over our years together. Then I remembered who I was now, what I'd achieved on my own. No, Marcus, I said quietly. What I needed was to believe in my own worth. Once I did that, everything else followed naturally. He laughed bitterly. Naturally? There was nothing natural about what you did. You sabotaged me, humiliated me in front of the entire industry. I simply stepped away and let you stand on your own abilities. I corrected him. Everything that followed was the natural consequence of your own limitations. His facade cracked then, anger bleeding through. You destroyed everything we built. Do you know what my life has been like since that night? Clients canceling, vendors refusing to work with me, invitations drying up, 5 years of building a reputation gone overnight. I met his gaze steadily. Not our reputation, Marcus. My work, your name. And now, the world knows the difference. He reached for my arm, but I stepped back, maintaining the distance between us. Around us, I noticed industry peers pretending not to watch our exchange while missing nothing. What do you want, Marcus? I asked. An apology? Forgiveness? Neither will restore what you lost, because what you lost was never rightfully yours to begin with. I want what's mine, he hissed. Half of what you're earning at Wallace Chung should be coming to me. We were partners. I shook my head. You accepted my buyout offer. $1 for my half of Brooks and Caldwell. A clean break, remember? Whatever I earn now has nothing to do with you. Because you orchestrated the whole thing. That disaster of a gala, the Wallace Chung announcement, it was all calculated to destroy. Me, I sighed. Not everything is about you, Marcus. I simply chose to value myself properly after years of allowing you to undervalue me. The ballroom doors opened as dinner was announced, guests streaming past us. Several nodded at me, pointedly ignoring Marcus. This isn't over, he said, desperation edging his voice. I've been talking to lawyers. There are grounds for a lawsuit, breach of fiduciary duty, conspiracy, defamation. No, Marcus, I interrupted gently. It is over, has been for months. Any lawsuit would only further damage what's left of your reputation. I softened my tone, surprising myself with the genuine pity I felt for him. Let it go, rebuild, start fresh somewhere. You have talent, actual talent, not just the ability to appropriate others' work. Use it. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, perhaps, of the truth in my words. Ms. Brooks? A waiter appeared at my elbow. They're about to announce the event designer nominees. They need you at the main table. I nodded, then turned back to Marcus. Goodbye, Marcus. As I walked away, he called after me, his voice stripped of its earlier venom. How do you do it? How do you sleep at night? Knowing what you did to me? I paused, looking back over my shoulder. I sleep peacefully, knowing I finally valued myself correctly. I hope someday you learn to do the same. Later that night, clutching my Event Designer of the Year award, surrounded by my team and new colleagues, I caught a last glimpse of Marcus slipping out a side door. There was something defeated in the slope of his shoulders, something final in his exit. I felt no triumph, no vindication, only relief that another chapter had closed and gratitude for the one that had opened in its place. 1 year to the day after the failed gala that changed everything, I stood on the balcony of my new penthouse overlooking Biscayne Bay. The Miami sunrise painted the water in shades of gold and coral, the city slowly, awakening beneath a sky that promised another perfect day. My phone chimed with a text from Maria. Happy anniversary of your Independence Day. See you at the office later? I smiled, typing back. Taking the morning off. Meeting you and James for lunch at Mandolin at 1. The past year had transformed all our lives. Wallace Chung's rebranding events had set new standards in the industry, earning recognition and awards that validated Olivia's faith in my vision. Maria now led a team of 20 event producers, while James had been promoted to operations director for all North American events. Most surprisingly, I'd found myself becoming a reluctant mentor to young women in the industry, speaking at conferences about creative leadership and the importance of claiming credit for one's work. My story, the invisible partner who stepped into the light, had resonated far beyond Miami's luxury circles, touching women across industries who'd experienced similar erasure. A copy of last month's Forbes magazine lay on my coffee table, open to the profile they'd written, Vanessa Brooks, From Shadow to Spotlight. The article detailed my journey from unacknowledged creative force to industry leader, with quotes from clients attesting to my long-hidden influence on their most memorable events. The doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. I wasn't expecting anyone, but my building had strict security. When I opened the door, I found a courier holding a slim package. "Delivery for Vanessa Brooks," he said, handing me an envelope and a signature pad. Inside was a handwritten note and a small, velvet box. I recognized the stationery immediately. Heavy cream cardstock embossed with the Caldwell Events logo, though it looked different now, redesigned since our partnership dissolved. The note read simply, "Vanessa, 1 year ago today, I experienced the most humiliating moment of my life. It was also, as it turns out, the most necessary. This belonged to you from the beginning. I should never have kept it. Marcus." I opened the velvet box slowly, uncertain what to expect. Inside lay a small gold key, the one from our very first office, the one Marcus had kept as a souvenir when we moved to larger quarters. I'd asked for it then, wanting this symbol of our beginning, but he'd refused, claiming it as his alone since he'd signed the original lease. The gesture was small but profound, an acknowledgement finally of my place in our shared history. I hadn't heard much about Marcus in recent months. The last industry rumor suggested he'd relocated to Chicago, restarting on a smaller scale with more honest branding. No more taking credit for others' work, no more exaggerated promises, just solid, straightforward event management for mid-tier corporate clients. Setting the key on my mantle, I felt the last traces of resentment dissolve. Marcus had taught me the hardest and most valuable lesson of my career, that talent without self-advocacy is talent unseen, that brilliance in silence often goes uncredited, that knowing your worth means nothing if you don't insist others recognize it too. At lunch, I shared the unexpected delivery with Maria and James over glasses of rosé and plates of Mediterranean meze. "A peace offering?" Maria asked, examining the key. "More like an acknowledgement," I replied. "A small piece of closure." James raised his glass. "To closure, then, and to everything that's opened since." We clinked glasses, the three of us who had weathered the storm together and emerged stronger on the other side. "I saw something interesting this morning," James mentioned as we finished our meal. "Caldwell Events was just hired to manage the Chicago launch of a new luxury hotel chain. Nothing on our scale, but legitimate work. The announcement specifically mentioned transparent business practices and ethical leadership as reasons for the selection." I nodded, surprisingly pleased. "Good for him. Maybe he really did learn something." "Does it bother you?" Maria asked. "That he gets a second chance after what he did?" I considered the question carefully. "No," I said finally. "His success doesn't diminish mine. There's room in this industry for both of us, as long as he's building on his own work now, not mine." That evening, as I prepared for a video call with Olivia and Edward to discuss our upcoming Tokyo event, I found myself pausing before the mirror. The woman who looked back at me bore little resemblance to the shadow I'd been a year ago. My posture was straighter, my gaze more direct, my presence more commanding. I'd spent 5 years making Marcus Caldwell look brilliant. Now I spent every day showing the world my own brilliance, unapologetically and without compromise. The call connected, revealing Olivia and Edward in their respective offices in New York and Hong Kong. "Vanessa," Olivia greeted me. "We have exciting news. The Sultan of Brunei has requested you personally for his daughter's wedding next spring. Unlimited budget, complete creative control, and your name featured prominently in all press coverage." I smiled. "That sounds perfect." 1 year, Edward mused. From unknown creative force to the most sought-after event designer in the luxury market. Quite the transformation. "Not a transformation," I corrected him gently. "A revelation. I was always this person. The world just couldn't see me." Later, after finalizing the Tokyo concepts, I returned to my balcony with a glass of wine. Miami glittered beneath me, the city that had witnessed both my invisibility and my emergence. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Saw the Forbes article. Well-deserved. Wishing you continued success." MC. I didn't respond, but I didn't need to. Some conversations are completed without words, some chapters closed without epilogues. The lesson I'd learned, the one I shared with every young creative who asked for advice, was simple but profound. Your worth isn't determined by others' recognition of it, but your success often depends on demanding that recognition. I had spent 5 years being invisible, watching Marcus take credit for my vision. But invisibility had been a choice. My choice. One I finally had the courage to unmake. Standing there, watching the moon rise over Miami, I remembered Marcus's words from that last night in our office. Vanessa, you'll arrange everything. That's your role. He'd been wrong about so many things, but in that moment, he'd accidentally spoken a truth. I did arrange everything, including in the end my own liberation. And that, more than any award or accolade, was the true measure of my success.